Hello everyone and welcome to our first ever LFC Bible podcast with me, your host, Admin Gav. I'm going to introduce you to all our guests. Our first guest is the owner of the
Hello.
page, Andy.
Hi.
Our second guest is another admin, Ron.
Hi.
And our final guest is a writer for the website, Steve.
Steve.
Hello.
I thought you were dead in us there.
Did you not hear me?
Steve.
Oh,
All right, lads. I'm going to ask you the first question. How long have you been following the Reds for?
I'll go first. I've been following Liverpool for about 12 years, 13 years. My stepdad got me into them. Wasn't really into Liverpool or any football at all before that. So yeah, it's been a journey for me.
I'll go next. Basically, I was living in India. Moved over last year. 10 years ago. September 2005 was when I moved over. So around 2006, January February time was when I started supporting Liverpool. Didn't really watch any matches or anything like that, but I do remember watching the FA Cup final. But I didn't really understand what it was back then. As such, I didn't really understand how big it was. But I think I really got into football very much so in the 2008 season when we had that title charge, obviously. So that's basically how I've got into it. But yeah, I started supporting around 2006, but properly came into football around 2008.
When we had all those draws. What about you, Steve?
well, I was actually born in Liverpool, so I won't give away my
I
age.
couldn't
But
tell.
yeah, so I was born there in the early 80s. So I lived there till I was about 16. So I went to watch all the resis, all the reserves when I was a kid, which was really cool watching them all come through the ranks and sort of play for the first team in the 90s. And then I left when I was about 16, so my accent's a little bit jumbled because I've been around a few places. But yeah, I followed them for as long as I can remember.
Well, I started, I'd say it was around '04, maybe. I remember Munster in the rugby were doing good and we had to wear a red jersey into school. And I kind of just said, sure, I'll wear a Liverpool one. And since then, I kind of just stuck with them. And I can remember crying at half time in the Champions League final, not having a clue what was going on, but sure did.
There's no shame in that, mate.
And then I can remember crying again in the '07 final. But that the crying didn't help that night.
The booze did, though.
I was about 12.
Well, maybe not.
I'm going to go to our first question, which is about the pre-season. How do you feel the pre-season went, guys? Do you think it was good or bad or indifferent?
I think it was actually quite good. I know we won most of the games. Obviously, we drew with I think it was Malaysia we drew with.
Yeah, the Malaysian XI.
Yeah, and I think I did sort of. I was quite interested in the pre-season because obviously there's a big gap between the end of the season and the start of the new season. So this was probably the first time I didn't watch all of the games in full, but obviously I did still have a big interest in it, and I think it was. People say the importance of playing the big teams like your Barcelonas and all that lot, but Man United may be Barcelona in pre-season friendly, but it doesn't necessarily give them the full run into the season. I think everyone knows they're a friendly. I think they're slightly overplayed. I think it's just good for fitness, but I think for me it's all about getting the winning frame of mind. Just constantly winning every game, even if it's a friendly. If you just get used to that winning feeling, hopefully that can at least give you a bit of confidence and make the new players feel better. If we'd lost a game and it was a mistake, it might knock one of the new players' confidence. So I think from that point of view, it was good.
I'd have to agree because when we think of last season, losing to United in the pre-season was awful for us. I can remember the Stag and I wasn't on the Facebook page at the time, but I can remember seeing all the hate in the comments, about that. And then when we beat Dortmund, I thought everyone was saying, "Oh, Dejan Lovren's going to be the vice captain. Oh, look at him, and look how wrong we were." And then with this season, none of the games were, besides the Australian teams, none of them were any bit professional, really.
Uh-huh.
You know, Swindon and Helsinki are professional, but they wouldn't be at the same level.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just felt that like it was great to see this new 4-3-3 that Rodgers once set up, and great to see the likes of Ibe getting a lot of match time, Lallana playing well, getting to see what Henderson and Milner are going to do in midfield, and got to see a sturdy Klein at right back.
Yeah, it's just, as Steve said, pre-season is really just about building morale, getting your fitness up. The problem for us this season is that our newer players haven't linked up until the last game.
Mm.
So really, it hasn't been about having to play the bigger teams for them to fit in better. It's just been about getting the morale there, getting, like Steve said, the winning mentality.
it's obviously true as well. I mean, an unbeaten preseason always bodes well for the team. Like lots of goals, few goals conceded as well. I think we've scored 13 goals. It is, and we've only conceded 2 with 3 clean sheets as well. It's good. Like I mean, vital game time has been given to Milner, Henderson, Origi, Ings, Gomez, Klein, all these new players, along with the Henderson as well. You're looking for fitness. You're looking for that winning mentality, as Gavin said. That 3-1 defeat really did hurt us a bit. So if you go into the season with a winning mentality, I think it always bodes well. So a good preseason for me was really good. So I did watch every match, not every minute of every match, but I did watch every match. So. I look forward to it, so.
And I think it's made us forget about those 2 horrible defeats at the back end of last season.
What
The
ones?
three.
Wait, which one?
I knew someone had mentioned that.
I had to.
Well, as a Liverpool fan living in Stoke, the last one was a bit horrible for me.
Oh, I can only imagine, Andy. I can only
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, my
Um,
brother-in-law used to play for Stoke.
Did he?
So that was a vile week. Yeah.
Oh,
God, man.
they're going to win the league this season. So my next question is going to be: so who was your player of the pre-season, and why?
For me,
I think for me, I would say I'd say it's a choice between Milner and Lallana. I think Milner's done quite well. I think what you always look for in pre-season, you tend to focus on the new signings and think, how they fitting in. And the current signings, the current players, sorry, they could already be playing well. But I think it's always got to be a new signing. And I think for me, Lallana's really sort of shown his ability, his control. He's got a great touch and, a couple of finishes there. But I think I like how Milner's just come in to the team, and he just seems to have already got that respect and that grip in the middle of the park, and he just seems to. I think Henderson will really bounce off him quite well. I think they're both, they both run all day long. They both fight for the club. They both, work hard in training. They've got that grit and determination. I think Milner's been key for his pre-season and just keeping the squad together, because obviously since Gerrard's gone, you kind of need that one player with experience. He's been the captain before. He's been there and done it. He's won the league. So I think for me, getting him in pre-season and playing some games like he did, he's done well. Obviously got a goal or 2 goals, I think, in pre-season. So I'd probably have to just give it to Milner, just slightly above Lallana.
For me, the player of the pre-season, I have to give it to Joe Gomez. He's young. He's come into a team where we all expected him to go out and loan to a championship club, and he's fighting for his starting place tomorrow. I mean, none of us expected that from him at all when he signed.
well, what I was going to say is as well, again, Benteke for me, but that 1 goal. But if I'm looking at it, as a whole picture together, it would be Gomez, because I did not know who he was, and that's to say for most Liverpool fans. Even I remember asking Andy who he was, but I knew Andy had some idea who he was. He said he was a good player. I didn't quite believe him, and that's I didn't, and I think I have a
You're not
point
the only
because
one.
yeah, I think I have a point because nobody knew who he was, and I was totally expecting him to be loaned out, but he's come in, he's done these wee turns that Lallana would do, and he's just impressed me so well. And it's great to see a player that young trying to fight for a spot, and actually learning.
Mm.
For me, Joe Gomez, he's come in as a young player. He's been an unknown player to a lot of Liverpool fans. He's played in an unfamiliar position at left back. He played right back last season for
Charlton.
wherever Charlton, yeah. Naturally, he's a centre back. He's not really played there too much for Charlton last season, but at right back he was very good. But I think he's a player that we've signed, and really we've got him for his best years. I mean, we've definitely got him for his best years. And for the fee that we've paid for him, for me, it's probably the signing of the season.
Well, like he's a long-term. The way I look at it is he's a long-term replacement for Martin Skirtle.
Yeah.
I can't see Skirtle being there in 18 months' time. Really, he's coming up to 30. We know Rodgers doesn't like those older players. I know Milner is a contradiction to that, but and to be honest, Skirtle isn't the best defender Liverpool have ever had. I'd rather Agger than him, but Rodgers didn't see the brilliant player that Daniel Agger was.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I think you're right as well, because what he tends to do is when he brings players in, especially most of the time, he'll play them out of position, just so they can get used to playing the pressure, used to the squad, used to the team. So he did it with Sterling, Markovic. He brings young players in, plays them out of position, and like you say, I think you're right. Hopefully he'll adapt to the team and the surroundings, and then slot into centre back.
Who's been the disappointing player for you in pre-season?
I would say 100% Origi. We loaned him out last year. I was very excited after seeing him in the World Cup. We bought him last year, loaned him out again. Again, throughout the season, last season, I've heard all these things about him being voted in the worst team of the season for the French league and all that stuff. But I sort of expected when he came to Liverpool he would have improved a bit. Seeing him in pre-season, he's got that rawness. Andy kept describing him like that, but it is 100% true. I think it was against Stye where he scored his amazing header, but the games after that, he dropped off. He keeps running with the ball. He knocks it 10 yards in front of him, runs at it, sometimes loses the ball, and I just don't think there's that real cutting edge that we have with Ibe or Coutinho, and that lack of intensity by him just worries me a bit.
I think for me, I'd probably have to say, and you might not agree with this, it's a bit controversial, but I was actually quite disappointed with Sacco. I love Sacco. I hope he plays, and I do hope he's our starting centre back personally. But I thought hopefully he'd sort of take the chance to really push on, knowing that obviously all the rumours about Lovren starting over him and that sort of thing. But I thought he'd really kind of take his chance. But especially against Swindon, he just looked really kind of nervous and anxious. And I know that's what a lot of people say about him. He does come across as nervous. And he pulls out the odd quality pass, and he's good with the ball at his feet, despite what people say. But he just looks anxious. I think, for me, I was hoping he'd really go out there and just dominate the game, and almost force himself into Rodgers' plans.
Similar to you, Steve, I'd be torn between Sacco and Moreno. I was expecting the two of them to come back after pre-season training, after the pre-season break, and sort out their defensive frailties from last season. But the both of them just seem to be the exact same player that they were 12 months ago.
I'm going to be even more controversial. I'm going to say Jordan Henderson. For me,
Interesting.
Statement.
I can't profess to have seen every single pre-season game with the timings and obviously being at work and things like that. But for me, when I've seen him, he hasn't looked like the player that we need him to become now that Gerrard's gone. He doesn't bring any of that driving mentality that we've got with James Milner. and for me, he's been a big disappointment. A bit controversial, but I'm sure I'll get a bit of hate for it.
Andy Wall, where are you?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's early days yet with Henderson. I think, obviously, he's a young lad. None of us, when he signed under Kenny Dalglish, thought he'd be the next captain of Liverpool. But I think the year we came second and nearly won the league, I thought he was, besides at the SAS, I thought he was our best player that season. And you saw what him getting the red card against Man City done to our title hopes. You know,
Yeah.
he's he's kind of that player that, you know, he's not going to get all the praise and the glory, but without him, the team the team falls apart.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I think hopefully with Milner, like I said earlier, hopefully he can still keep learning from Milner and get better. But I actually would agree. He has had a pretty poor pre-season. But like you say, hopefully he'll take now Gerrard's gone, he's not living in a shadow as such anymore. Hopefully it was maybe just a bedding in for him, like it's his first tour as captain. He's kind of realised, I know he's been there for a few years, but as Liverpool captain, he's now got to do all the duties, all the commercial stuff when they were on tour. So you never know. That could have maybe got to him. Not defending him, like, but maybe that could have got to him. And hopefully he'll learn from it. But I would agree. Actually, yeah, he has had a poor pre-season.
I think with Jordan Henderson, you're expecting him to chip in with assists and goals, and I don't think he's scored one goal, got one assist this pre-season. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think he did that
I-
Rabona, didn't he?
Yeah, he
If
got
that's
the
how you
Yeah,
pronounce
Rabona
it.
yeah, he
assist,
did.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. But other than that, I've not really been impressed by him.
I think he's become a lot more of an attacking midfielder, which, you know, when we bought him, he was a right mid, and I was hoping, you know, him on the right, Downing on the left, Big Andy up front. I thought we might get something there, but that didn't happen. And then, you know, the our wide men aren't so wide anymore, so he kind of had to go in to the centre of the park, and I think he's better there. But I do like the fact that, you know, one of Milner and him will stay back and the other will bomb forward. I think that's
Yeah.
necessary.
The thing about Milner is that he's got that cutting quality, like that cutting edge quality that he has shown at Man City. I mean, to get offered 135,000 a week at Man City with all of the players they have, it just shows you the quality he has. And Henderson definitely has a lot more learning to do, and I think he will. I think he'll definitely pick it up from Milner in this next coming season. But I think if we give Henderson another season to learn, next season he will be amazing.
I'd have to agree with you, Ron. I do think I think he's a year or two off it. But you look at it, the Liverpool captain through the years, you know, like everyone that has done it has become an icon for the club, and you just hope that Henderson can take that big step up
And he
and
carries his
become,
position, yeah.
you know, like even, you know, Gerrard to take over from Sammy Hupia. I know at the time probably a lot of the fans were kind of saying, oh, why is he taking over and that? And I know a lot of people were shouting for Skirtle for captain and for vice captain, and I think we made the right choice with the two of them. I think both the lads are very vocal. And as I replied to someone's comment yesterday and giving out about Skirtle, I said Skirtle isn't vocal enough to be the captain or the vice captain.
It's true.
In fact,
Yeah,
I saw
definitely.
saw a brilliant response to that. I think you saw it yourself, Gav. Skirtle can't control his defence, so how can we
Yeah.
expect him to control the whole team?
And like that, Lovren was brought in last summer, to much of our dismay, to be that man that would control the defence. And I still think that's where we're lacking. And maybe Klein, I don't know, I wouldn't see Klein as being that man, but someone English, someone that can speak English anyway. I know Martin Skirtle can, but Sacco's English is still very broken, and so is Lovren's. But that's what I think we need, that Carragher kind of player.
It's exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
The season after Carragher left was a season that we nearly won the league, and it was a season where we conceded 50 odd goals. And we can definitely see that drop in quality in the defence control. That is what we're lacking.
Last season, I think that's why Gerrard was dropped back. deep in that role. I think his fitness probably wasn't good enough to go up top, but I think that's what Brendan Rodgers was hoping, was that dropping him back deeper and deeper would actually control that defence. Because you're right, there's just no control back there.
No. What I was going to say is I would love Cara for just one more year. I think he would.
Yeah,
I think he could have been the difference.
Yeah, yeah.
But
definitely.
I think we'll move on, and I'll go to my next question, which is, what do you make of the new signings, and how do you think they're going to fit into this new look 4-3-3? Although in saying 4-3-3, from the last two matches there last weekend, it kind of seemed like a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like we said earlier, it's going to be tough to judge the new players based on pre-season, but I think what I like about the new signings is that they seem to be quite aggressive and quite, tough players. Because we have got a few players in the team that are quite, like Coutinho, he's quite quiet, as amazing as he is. I think Benteke, he can look after himself. He's a big lad. He's quite tough.
Big Ben.
Yeah, yeah, Big Ben. You've got Firmino, who looks, although he might be quite slight, he looks like he's obviously very confident. He's quite aggressive, and that's what we kind of need. And then you've got Milner, and as you touched on earlier, Gomez as well. He looks very confident. And Klein, obviously, we've all seen what he can do. So I think the new signings are going to hopefully bring us closer together as a squad and kind of help us fight as a team and bring that kind of aggression back. Because, even as much as Steven Gerrard, we don't need any more superlatives to describe him, but I don't think he was really a fighter. Do you know what I mean? I know he was hard and he was quite aggressive, but he was still quite, he was quite meek and quite quiet. Often he was that kind of captain. I'd like to think our signings can hopefully push us more towards, a more aggressive style of play. When you look back at Man United, your Arsenal's and Chelsea's even, how many players surround the referee when there's something going wrong, or if someone makes, like Costa does a snidey little elbow or something like that. Last season you saw Henderson square up to him, which was one of the best moments of the season for me. But, you just think that's what we need. We need players who are aggressive, who are going to, take it to the other team and actually, show the passion for the team.
Well, that won't be allowed anymore because there's a new regulation stating that if there's more than two people surrounding the referee, the club can't get charged. So, I don't think that would be a very good idea. But talking about the new signings, as I said earlier, it's vital that all these players that have been given game time, such as Milner, Origi, Gomez, Ings, Klein, and obviously all these players have impressed, apart from Origi for me, and obviously Benteke has been very well for the game he's played. I think he's got that goal and it's given him the confidence. Firmino, his fitness I think needs to improve a bit. Obviously Coutinho there will help him just settle in a wee bit earlier and a wee bit quicker. That's fine for him, I think. But obviously I wouldn't start him. But
No.
I as you said, Gavin, that 4-2-3-1 formation would suit the players we have. Coming in more central rather than going wide, especially players like Coutinho and Firmino. It would be better if we played like Lallana or Ibe and they can fit into the 4-3-3 formation. But the 4-2-3-1 for me is what we would play if we're playing Coutinho and Firmino instead of, I don't know, Lallana and Ibe, for example, who are naturally wider players and who can make an impact coming in from the wings.
Yeah.
So our players coming out of the club, we see Barini is possibly heading to Fiorentina. I think reports are saying a €7 million fee has been agreed. But I want to know, what do you think of Balotelli and Jose Enrique? Do they have to go, or like half the Liverpool fans, would you give Mario Balotelli a chance?
Yeah, I think Barini. I think Mario Balotelli's definitely got to go. I think with the players we've signed and Sturridge, when he eventually comes back if he can stay fit, I think we've got enough strikers. So Balotelli really needs to be moved on. His wage will probably be a problem for any club that wants to sign him if he's willing to take another drop, which I don't think he would be.
No.
For me, I don't really know who else needs to be moved on, to be honest.
Jose Enrique.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a selfie stick with him as well.
And his ping pong cues. So yeah, Enrique, if he can stay fit, he can. I think he's a good player. I think he, as a backup player.
Well, we're hoping John Flanagan will be back soon. Like,
Mm.
The problem with John Flanagan is he's only got 1 season contract renewal just given to him. To me, that says that the management aren't too convinced that he'll be around for the long term.
Well,
Obviously, if he can get his fitness back again and he can get that form, then yeah, he'd probably take the position.
yeah, I mean, I'm going to say something that I don't think will be very popular among the fans, but again, it's going to be controversial. Like earlier, I'm going to say Lucas. I mean, he's been a great servant. Don't get me wrong or anything, but he's on cutting edge. I mean, look at the likes of people like United bringing people like Schweinsteiger and Schneiderlin in, and they have the players that can do the job. They have people like Fellaini. I mean, yeah, he's not that good, but they do have the people who can do the job. But we have the people who can do the job, and Lucas can't. For me, Lucas can't, and it shows. It has been shown in the last 2 seasons. Those types of players cannot protect our defence, and we talked about this earlier. Our defence is fragile, and we need something to fix that. And even Jamie Carragher was being vocal about the fact that we haven't signed a defensive midfielder.
I was hoping and praying that William Carvalho from Sporting Lisbon would be making his way over to Liverpool this summer, but that never happened. And like I texted Sandy yesterday, and Sunderland signed Yannim Villa.
Uh-huh.
I thought he could honestly put in a shift for us. Like, I know maybe 2 years ago he definitely could have came in, because I can remember Arsenal were constantly being linked with him, and then he decided to go to Russia, and his career kind of fell down then. But I thought, like, that's a great Sunderland, and I genuinely think he could play for any of the big teams in England.
That's a good point.
I think what you've got to remember though, now that we've got Emre Can able to play in midfield this season, I think that he'd probably take Lucas's place anyway. And having played in defence for the whole last season, he's obviously built up his defensive side, so he can actually help. And he is a vocal player. Going back to the previous question of pre-season impressive players, he's been another one that's impressed us pre-season.
Yeah. Well, he's only played in 2 matches, but again, in those 2 matches, I thought he was very good.
Yeah, he's been one of the most. He's been impressive in both games that he's played in. I mean, that little flick he did in the was it the last game he played in?
Yeah.
It didn't quite come off for him, but that just shows you that he's got the confidence to play in the team, and we need that confidence. It's something that we lacked, obviously, against Stoke. But yeah, if he can bring the confidence, then that confidence then can go on to the other players.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lucas has probably lost quite a lot of confidence since. Was it against Chelsea when he damaged his leg last time? I think since then he's lost his pace, and I love Lucas. You know, he's been with us for ages, but I do totally agree. I think he's been here for a long time. He's quite slow. You know, he wasn't even bought, if you remember far back enough. Like, he wasn't even bought as a defensive mid. He was actually an attacking midfielder in Brazil. And we obviously tailored him to a defensive midfield role, but he just gets booked every single game. You know, you just know it's like every game. You can put money on it. Lucas is going to get booked if he starts today.
It's always just silly little fouls from him as well.
That's exactly true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he winds everyone up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's focusing on these 3 main people. I mean, we've already obviously got sold Lambert and stuff, but everybody's focusing on Balotelli, Enrique, and Barini. Barini looks on his way out, and what was it? Gavin said €7 million, which is about £4.5 million, I'd say, something like that.
Yeah.
And we were offered 14 million for him last season by QPR.
Oh.
Was he not Sunderland?
It was one of them anyway.
I would blame Barini. I mean, fair enough for him to try and stick around, but I think there's that point where you have to realise, you know, you're not going to make it. And I think the penny has dropped by the signing of Benteke.
Yeah.
And he's really
Yeah. I think, you know, that's what's admirable about what Lambert's done, because he came in, he had his chance, he stuck around that Christmas, and you thought, fair play to him, he's going to give it another 6 months or whatever, but he's got to the summer, he's realised he's not going to play, and he's moved on, and that's respectful. I think what gets, the fans angry is the players that just hang around. And like you rightly say, Barini, we accepted a bid for him, but he's the one that refused to go. And I wouldn't even say admirably, to be honest, because he knew he wasn't going to play. He still
He's,
stuck around,
and he was probably getting the same wage at Sunderland or QPR or whoever was looking for him.
Yeah.
Because he's
Yeah.
hardly on anything major. I'd be very surprised if he's on anything more than 50 grand. But I think we'll move on to the real juicy stuff here now, lads. The season predictions. So I hope you're not so controversial with this one. But where do you think Liverpool will finish at the end of this season?
we're going to win the league. We're going
We were talking about this in the chat a couple of days ago. I really don't care where we finish. If we can win the Europa League, that is as good, if not better, than getting fourth spot, because it's basically doing two things. It's basically taking two boxes. It's taking your Champions League, and it's also taking a trophy. And with the squad we've got, I believe we can do it. I think, why can't we? I mean, it's all these mediocre clubs from Europe that we're getting put out by. I mean, remember a couple of seasons ago we didn't get put out by, we got beat by Anzi Mahashkala, and it's games like that where we can make the difference, but we just don't. And I think the squad we have this season, we can definitely make a finish. I mean, we can definitely get to the final. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right there. That does cover two boxes, and I think that's exactly what everyone wants, as a trophy and Champions League qualification. Champions League qualification is so vital for a club like Liverpool, to attract those players again. I know we didn't really attract many when we finished second, but we need to start consistently getting into it. And like you say, I think we've now got the squad that can win a Europa League. It'll be another trophy, get back in the Champions League, and then hopefully just stay there for a few seasons. Because I think personally, I'd, as much as I'd like us to do that and win the Europa League, sounded controversial, I actually would rather finish fourth than win a trophy if I had to choose. And I actually think we will finish fourth this season. I know a lot of people like winning a trophy, but yeah, I think finishing fourth would be good.
Although I would like to finish fourth just so Shitty City or the Scum don't get top four.
That's true. That's a good point.
For me, I think we'll finish fourth. I think it'll be tight right up to the end. As for the Europa League, I think last time I checked we were joint second favourite to win the whole tournament. It's obviously a bit early yet. You've got the likes of Dortmund in there, who are actually, I think they were the favourites to win it.
Yeah.
Then you've got the Carling Cup. I'd like to win that. Obviously, it becomes the Mickey Mouse Cup once you're not in it. FA Cup, I don't think we stand a chance with that. I think we always seem to get beat by stupid little teams. And then when we do beat them teams, we get battered by the bigger teams. I think we've got
two semi-finals last season. Like, we weren't expecting that at all.
No.
And I do think we could have won the Carling Cup.
But even worse was we should have at least got to the final of the FA Cup. I mean, we were facing Chelsea in the semi-finals of the Carling Cup. It's all right if we lose to them because we know we're not as good as them last season anyway. But Aston Villa, I mean, that's just a complete disappointment. It's a complete embarrassment to the club, really. To lose to Aston Villa. I mean, all respect to them and whatever, but we should be beating them. It doesn't matter that they were better on the day. We should at least have a fighting chance. And 2-1 on the scoreline seems all right, but it's just not acceptable for me anyway. A final should have been what we should have got, but it's just a complete disappointment and embarrassment for the club to go out to Aston Villa.
Was it Benteke as well?
It was Benteke and Delph, the snake.
I think last season, where we fell down in the cups was in my opinion, I think we overplayed the importance it was to Gerrard over the club. I think, everyone was saying get Gerrard there for his birthday, and you saw those Aston Villa fans with the little cake, the picture that went around Twitter. That was so annoying. But I think it's probably played too much. I think we almost made it the Gerrard show last season. I think what I'm hoping for is this season, like I said earlier, Henderson comes out of his shell a little bit. Milner pushes us on, and we actually sort of make it back to Liverpool as opposed to Gerrard.
So who do you think will be our top scorer this season?
It's got to be Big Ben, hasn't it?
It really does.
Big Ben.
He really has to get a 15 to 20 goal season just to justify that price tag.
Definitely. I think I think with the service he's going to have behind him, Coutinho, Firmino, Lallana, and Henderson and Milner. There's a lot of creativity in the team, more than there was at Aston Villa for sure. And as his goal against Swindon shows, it's not just he's not a target man. He's not. It doesn't have to. He only plays off crosses, apparently according to Sherwood, but he's a good finisher, and I think we can get the ball to him, and 9 times out of 10 he's going to at least hit the target. And one thing last season that I was crying out for anyway was how many times Coutinho had the ball or Henderson had the ball, they'd look up and there's no one making that run into the box. And I think that's what we hoped Lambert would do, but he was just too slow, unfortunately. But I think Benteke could really be the man that we can thread those little balls into, and he knows where the goal is. He can finish with his eyes closed. So I really do think he'll do well this season.
For me, just being a bit consistent with what I've had a bit of a bet with one of the admins, Ray.
I was hoping to get on to talk about Benteke, but the GAA football is a bit more important to him.
Yeah. We've had a bit of a bet, like I say. He thinks Benteke will be our top scorer. I not so much. I actually think that if Sturridge can come back in September, October, if he can keep his fitness and get into the squad, keep his form, I think he could be his top scorer.
Mm.
We're hoping so anyway.
Yeah.
I don't care as long as someone gets 20 goals. I really don't. So I think we're going to go on and talk a bit about Stoke. Obviously, Stoke alone, as they're being called now, they're definitely not this long ball team. They've brought in some top quality players. They have Bojan, who was the mini Messi. They have Ibrahim Afellay, this Dutch winger that I can remember we were interested in. Peter Crouch up front is always something to deal with.
Big John
Walters.
John Walters. I think defensively, John Glenson, as he's known. I think Shea Given in goals, being an Irishman, I think given this is his last chance, he's 39, I think. I think it is a step down from Begovic. Jack Butland might have to step up as well at some point during this season. I remember he was all the next England goalkeeper around 2012, and he's faded away into the abyss since. Stoke are a great side. We're not going to dispute that. I do think they could have a top 7 finish if they can play good, consistent football throughout the season. But I do think we are a better side than them, and we have to be winning tomorrow.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Everything you just said. I think we have to win tomorrow. I mean, if you just imagine the scenes if we don't win tomorrow, you can just see it now. I'm sure all of you have seen, even over the summer, before we'd even kicked the ball, we were getting criticised. So yeah. I think you're totally right. I think it will be a different game to the end of last season, 100%. But I think we have to win tomorrow. I think if I was to make a prediction, I'd say 2-1. I think it'll only be 1 or 2 goals in it, hopefully. I said that last time as well, but
not 6.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're right. They've got a really good compact team, and I think that they're a good side. They will push for top 8, top 7, but I think we've got just a little bit too much for them tomorrow,
Yeah.
and the new players are going to be really eager to impress as well.
And I'm hoping that, Big Big Ben can do something tomorrow. I think realistically for him, if he got a goal tomorrow, it'd put a lot less pressure on him. Because I can remember last season with Ricky Lambert, I wanted nothing more than to see Ricky Lambert score. And he kind of got a goal against Man City when we lost 3-1. It was an own goal, but I gave it to him in my head. I was like, come on, Ricky, that's a goal. And even you look at Balotelli, how long were we waiting for him to get a goal? I remember Suarez when he first came in. He
Crouch
wasn't
as
that
well.
Crouch, yeah. Even Torres when he came in, he kind of only hit form. I can remember Benitez kind of used him as a rotation player until February, and I can remember he got a hat-trick, was it against West Ham or someone, and that was when he hit his stride. Even Benteke last season only hit his stride in February. So, I'd hope he'd get off the mark tomorrow.
Yeah, as for score prediction for me, I'm going to say 3-1 to Liverpool. I think Benteke, keep saying it, I think Benteke is going to score a hat-trick. It's probably unlikely. Yeah, I think we'll win. I think we'll have a good scoreline to win by.
I'm the same. Like, I mean, 3-1, 2-1. I don't care what it is. For all it can be, Charlie Adam own goal. I do not care. I just needed that 3 points on the board. Because can you just imagine Twitter of all places going into meltdown tomorrow if we don't win? And even like I'm talking about real life. Even if we don't win, it's just going to be a long, long season for us. Because as we know, our first 8 games away from home are very hard indeed, and
Yeah.
we need to get the confidence first of all. And if we don't get that at Stoke, Bournemouth gives us another opportunity, but it's not going to be good enough. We need to get that 3 points when we can. And
If
Yeah.
if we can have a good first 8 away games, I really think that the top 4 is certain then. I think if we, toward the back end of the season, the away games are going to be very easy.
oh yeah, yeah.
So it's either going to be the greatest season we've had in a while, or it's going to be 8th place. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
There is no middle ground.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you're totally right.
Anfield is a very good ground. This guy released a stat the other day, a survey the other day, not a survey, a stat the other day, and it shows that Anfield has been the toughest ground for an opposition to come and get points. And it shows us that if we can get that first 8 away games, get good results there, we can, for against the top teams, we can actually get that victory. And this was proven. This is actually proven a couple of seasons ago, 2 seasons ago, when we pushed for the title, where we had played a load of the top 7 teams. I think all of the top 7 teams before Christmas. Away, so it meant that
Yeah.
we played everybody that was in the top 7 at the time at home, except for Southampton, I think it was, and it really plays dividends. I mean, if we can, if we just need to get that first 8 games, or first 8 away games, I should say, done with. I think we're in with a fighting chance. I think we will get that top 4.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's really easy to sort of say, if we have a poor start, it's not too bad because we've got the big teams at home next season. It's so easy to fall into that false sense of security, but there's no
Yeah.
guarantee of those points later in the season. So you're totally right. If we don't get anything at the start of the season, I can see us, like you say, 8th. It's that important that to win these away games, because although it's easy to say, oh, we're playing them at home, and you're totally right. Like, we've got a really good record at home, but the confidence will be low. The morale will be low, and it then suddenly becomes a lot harder than just having a home game.
And okay, lads, we're going to wrap up, but I've one final question for you. From the only question I feel that was worth asking from the Q&A we put up on the Facebook page, and it's from Aaron Lamount, and it's, what do you think of Joe Allen's beard?
Glorious.
Not as good
I-
as Lallana's.
I don't know, between himself and Markovic, they both looked like they spent the entire pre-season in a rubbish bin. They both, like, I saw a photo of Lazar when he came in, and like the start of last season, and a photo of him now, and he looks like he's aged about 10 years.
Everybody's seen that. Like, it's a pretty funny picture. But as we hear, Joe Allen's been out, is going to be out for another month, so we won't be able to get that glorious beard out on the pitch at Anfield for the next month at least.
I think that's a positive. I don't rate Joe Allen at all. I really don't. I think I was really happy when he came in. I thought, oh, we're going to play like Swansea, but he just hasn't been the same player. I think at a small club like Everton, I think he'd be great, but not at Liverpool.
I love that take.
I was trying to kind of veil it a little bit. All right, so lads, we're going to wrap it up here, and anyone let us know in the comments down below if you want us to keep doing this, and if you want to see Steve on again. I personally hope Steve will come on a few times throughout the season, and we're going to rotate the cast of us. We've other admins on, we've a load of Irish admins and a few English lads and a few Scouse lads, and we're going to get them on, and we're going to hopefully keep this up throughout the season.
Sounds good.
So yeah, give us your opinions below. Any improvements we can make to this as well, you know.
Make sure you check out Steve's articles on the website too.
Thank you.
No worries.
All right, so lads, we'll wrap it up and see you next week.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.